Oh, if I move over this way. There we go. I need to see too. Oh yeah, now I can see.
All right, we are live and people are seeing us. We are public and we are in the green room with Tish Diaz today. Okay, so we're a little late, and that's kind of my fault because what we were talking about just before I went live here is that we're at the mercy of technology, and as cool as all of this stuff is, just before I was getting ready to give you the link, my mixer and its iPad connection went south on me, and it just kind of crapped out. And I'm going, wait, I got a show to do in like 5 minutes. And what I first thought of was like, I'm panicking the way I do on gigs. Come on, I shouldn't be panicking like I do on gigs. I mean, this is a day off. All right, so wait, now see, here I am. There, I got your name underneath you. So
okay.
So
can I make myself bigger on this screen, or can I see me bigger or split screen, or no?
No.
Okay.
You mean on the on your Facebook?
On my end? Probably not on my end, huh?
No, I've
okay.
got control over what people see.
Okay. All right.
And right now they're seeing me looking a little funky and you looking gorgeous.
Okay.
So just a little bit of backstory. What's really interesting is I asked you for your phone number, mm-hmm. and I put it in my to text you, and your name came up. So I've had your phone number in my phone.
Oh, that's so funny.
Forever. And I remember it. You may not remember. I think I even mentioned this to you once when we were texting, mm-hmm. Years ago when I had my band. Mm-hmm. I was doing gigs up in the Bay Area. Mm-hmm. Kevin Porter, he gave me I said, I need a piano player. And mm-hmm. He gave me your number. And I think you weren't available because you got some kind of big time gig and you were leaving town. And I said, oh, that's too bad. And you go, well, maybe call me when I get back. But I mm-hmm. think, if I'm not mistaken, that may have been when you left town to go do the Andy Williams thing.
Oh gosh,
I don't know, but this was a while ago.
That was a while ago, yeah. So could have been. So
well, so anybody who's watching, excuse me, anybody who's watching mm-hmm. who doesn't know anything about you, mm-hmm. You grew up in the Bay Area, is that correct?
I did. I was born in Oregon, but in Portland, but my family moved to the Bay Area in 1964. My dad got transferred for work. So
then you spent your whole rest of your life there, pretty much.
Till I went to USC, till I was 19.
And I was going to say something to you about that. I also put my UCLA shirt on.
Oh no.
Because you are a diehard USC fan.
Oh, totally diehard. Obnoxious. I've hit the obnoxious level.
Yeah, and my oldest daughter went to UCLA, and I never really was a UCLA fan, but she did graduate from UCLA, so I kind of support them. I'm not an obnoxious UCLA fan, but so to school there, did you go for music? Is that what you?
I did. I went for music.
And when did you start playing and learning? Your parents? I'm reading a little bit here about you. Your parents were musical.
No, well, they loved music, but they didn't have the opportunities growing up. Mm-hmm. But so they wanted us to have them. But my mom had a really nice singing voice, and my dad, they just loved music. In fact, they met in Denver back in the days when the hotels would have the big bands playing their ballrooms.
Oh, yeah,
they met dancing to at one of those dances.
And where was it in California?
in Denver.
In Denver. Oh, sorry, you said that. So that made me think of when I grew up. One of the first gigs I played was with this band. I forget the guy's name, but they were big bands, and back then there were ballrooms all around the Midwest, and they would do these dances. And maybe this is what your parents did, where the big band would play a set of foxtrots. They go, okay, a set of foxtrots, and then all the people would dance in a circle around the foxtrot around the room, and the band would do a set of 4 songs, and then they take a break, and waltzes are coming up next, and then they play 3 waltzes. Then was it that kind of ballroom dancing sort of thing?
I think so, because my parents actually, after they started dating, they won a waltz contest.
Whoa.
Yeah. My dad was quite the dancer. My mom said the first night she was there and met him, she thought, oh, who is this guy? She thought he was a little full of himself because he was all the women.
Oh, I lost your mic.
He was my dad was a real good dancer. He could cha-cha and jitterbug and
it sounds like the kind of thing, because that was a big deal. In the Midwest, especially, dances, and everybody had to learn all those kinds of dances. To know them. And if you were the best dancer, then all the women wanted you. Yeah.
He was in demand as a dance partner.
Funny. Okay, so they did, and then they made it easy for you. They were interested in having you do music, and your first instrument was.
My very, very first instrument was this little xylophone I got for Christmas when I was about 3 that had an octave on it. But and that's when they discovered, I would hear things on the radio or the television, and I would plunk them out on the xylophone. And if I didn't have enough high notes, I'd hit the wood. And same time, if there wasn't a low note that matched, I'd hit the wood. And that's when they said, okay, we got to get a piano. But all my sisters had all showed musical abilities. So there were 5 of us. 2 of us went into it. Yeah, 5 girls. 2 of us went into it professionally, but everybody took lessons and played an instrument and was in marching band. And
when you grew up then in that time, because I grew up in a time when it was common for everybody to take piano lessons and learn music, and that's the way it was for you too, right?
Yeah, and everybody, and even in grade school, we had grade school. I had 75 kids in my grade school orchestra. That's when I took up clarinet in the 4th grade. And but everybody took private lessons. Everybody on their instrument. You went to the local music store and you rented the instrument and you took private lessons. It was just it was just part of life back then.
It was that way where I grew up in Nebraska too, and it's changed a lot. But I think it's interesting how in those days, even football players in my school took piano when they were kids. And was there any kind of vocal music in your school?
Not till I got to junior high, and then high school we had the whole gamut. We had choir, orchestra, concert band and marching band, jazz band, and we did a musical every other year. And the orchestra pit was students from the orchestra.
Nice.
Maybe once in a while a parent or 2 would come in just for fun, but not because we needed ringers. They would just come down and do it for fun. But we had a full orchestra that was made up of students from the music program.
Did you play in the orchestra for those things then too?
I played piano, and one time I played sax, clarinet, and doubled on tenor sax. The one time I got into the saxophone for a little bit. So piano was always my main thing. So
okay. And do you still play clarinet and sax or anything like that at all?
No, I donated my clarinet to a music program in Las Vegas.
Wow. Okay. So you grew up, and where'd you graduate from high school then? In
Cappuccino High School on the border of Millbrae and San Bruno.
Wow. See, all this time I was thinking, because you have a 707 number, that you live like a North Bay girl, but you were right on the peninsula.
I got that number when I came back to the Bay Area in the late 90s, when my sister was I was helping her. I was driving her to her chemo sessions, kind of helping her. She had cancer, and that's when cell phones were first coming out. And I had a big I think I had a Motorola, was like about this big,
I remember those.
But she was up in, my parents had moved to Fairfield after my dad retired, and she was living up in Sassoon. So that's why I had the 707 area code number.
So in between then, so you got into high school, and then you graduated from high school. You went to USC for music.
Yeah. I went to San Francisco State first for a couple of years, and then transferred down to USC.
SF State has a pretty decent music program. Yeah. And
I just didn't, I had a weird experience. I had this teacher that would, here I am saying this on the internet. I had this teacher who would, my lessons were, he'd walk around the room during my lesson, and then he'd say, okay, see you next week. And I was like, that's not a lesson.
That's it?
Yeah. And so I was really discouraged. And I went home and I asked my dad, I said, can I change majors? And because that was back in the days where you lived at home and school cost $96 a semester, and you're sharing a car with your sister to get to school every day. I said, Dad, I want to change majors. And he said, well, can't you change schools? So he didn't think, no, I was going to pick like the most expensive school on the West Coast.
Well, so excuse me for interrupting, but because people may not remember, California was free tuition unless you went to UCLA, which was a
right
school, right?
Yeah.
So
USC was private. Junior colleges were pretty, just paid like nominal fees, $6 a semester if you lived at home.
Yeah. So you picked USC, and that was I had a friend who was going there, a clarinetist that I'd grown up with. We used to walk to kindergarten together, and then we sat next to each other in orchestra. And I became his accompanist in junior high school. And I called him. I said, I'm just really bummed out at this with this music stuff. And he said, transfer down here. And they had an accompanying program. They were like I think they were the only institution at the time that had a accredited, you get a degree in collaborative piano, which they call it collaborative piano now. It used to be accompanying. Well, and he said, get down here. So he arranged a whole audition for me because we had been playing together for years. So he arranged the audition, sent me the applications. But then the week and a half before he's going to play my audition, he broke his thumb playing intramural basketball. Oh. But I still went down and auditioned. He wrangled a grad student to play for me. We rehearsed for a few days. And at the audition, they said, you just don't have, you don't have the collaborative, because we were still new playing with each other. But my other friend I had been playing with since we were 8th grade. Right.
But they said, but still come down and be in the program. And then if you want to transfer over to the collaborative program, which I never ended up doing. I almost went back as a grad student, but then I was already out gigging, and I thought, I don't want to go back and write papers. I'm already gigging. I wanted to stay out and gig.
Yeah. So what was your first gig though? What was that?
My very, very ever first gig was playing for a singer at a convalescent home when I was about 13 in Burlingame. I was going to this. You're from the Bay Area, right? You're from the Bay Area, right?
Well, I lived there. I moved there in 1980, but I grew up in Nebraska. Okay.
There was a little conservatory on El Camino Real in Burlingame called the Peninsula Conservatory. So that's where I was taking piano lessons.
I remember.
And so they started sending us out for gigs, and there was a girl studying voice, and they said, okay, we need to get these two out performing. So she and I, worked up some music together, and she also played guitar. So we did a couple of art songs, and then we did some like the Carpenters were big back then. I'm old. So we did some Carpenters tunes, and I'm going to entertain, the troops at the convalescent homes.
Well, that's a gig. What did it feel like? What did it feel like actually doing a gig for the first time?
I got $15. I was so excited. and then when I was a freshman in high school, our family friend of ours was the band director at Sarah High School in San Mateo. Mm-hmm. And he said, I want you to come down and play our musical. It was Man of La Mancha. So we met some guys in that band, and they asked my sister and me, because my sister played bass, but she also sang. And she was studying classical voice at State. Mm. They said, would you guys want to be in our band? So we joined their band. And so our first gig with them was a Job's Daughter dance out somewhere across the bay. I can't remember where it was. So I got another $15.
No,
I was raking it in.
you're rolling in the dough.
But you got to start somewhere. But I listened to old tapes. But the guy, one of the guys in the band, we actually have gotten in contact again. He actually found an old cassette, and he sent it to me. And I thought I sounded so bad. I was like, oh my God, I sound terrible. But you got to start somewhere, right?
Right. So you sent me this thing, and I'm sort of reading through it a little bit. And but after that, when did you do your sister's top 40 band?
Oh, well, then that was when she was in college. I was still in high school, and she and the drummer, who is now her husband, became her husband. They put together a top 40 band, and they would play a lot of the restaurants around San Francisco and Columbus Street. And they would hand me a stack of 45s and say, here, write out the chord changes for us. Because they didn't want to spend the money on buying all the sheet music. So that was my ear training before I went to college. I called that my ear training. And then one night she called. So I got to learn the tunes just hearing them on the radio and hearing them on these 45s. And then one night she called my dad. It was a weeknight. And she said, our keyboard player can't make it at the last minute. Something happened. She goes, can you bring Tish up to play with us? So my dad drove me up to the city to this restaurant and waited in the restaurant while I played their sets, and then drove me back home because I didn't have a license yet. So, so we're doing Bee Gees tunes and
Nice.
Just your typical top 40 stuff from that day. Donna Summer, it was fun.
Well, yeah, as a kid though, I'm just kind of relate in my own school. I always felt I'm cool because everybody else in my school was wanting to do stuff like that.
Yeah. It was funny. It was just something. It felt so normal. It did. It just felt normal. Dad driving me to the gig. I did an Easter service one time as an outdoor service, and I also didn't have a license yet. And my dad went with me. We had to be there at 6 a.m. in Foster City. And I just remember I was accompanying a woman singing something from the Messiah, and the gust of wind came up and blew my Messiah book off the keyboard and down towards the water. So my poor dad ran after it. I'm trying to fake the Messiah for this opera singer, and she's trying to keep singing over whatever I'm playing, and her eyes got this big and my eyes got this big, but I just kept trying to play something, kept it going. So as dad ran down toward the water and grabbed it, then brought the book back and was trying to find the page I was on. Of course, he didn't read music, and he had a book upside down. So we just kind of got through the, I know that my Redeemer liveth.
Right.
Winging it.
That's funny. Oh man.
So yeah.
Jump through. So you go to college and you graduated from USC.
Yes.
And then what was your plan? What were you going to do?
It's so funny. There were a couple times where I thought, should I go back to the Bay Area? But I wanted to be down in LA because I studied with this amazing piano teacher, Daniel Pollock, who is a international concert pianist and judges the big competitions all over the world. And I remember telling him, I said, look, I'm not going to graduate and win the Van Cliburn. I know that. I just want to play the instrument as well as I possibly can. I'm going to make a living in commercial music. And he said, oh, well, my best friend's Lalo Schifrin. So, so he was very supportive of, and I just wanted to really play the piano well. I just wanted to have as much technique and musicality and as I could. And so when I graduated, I got into the keyboards, got into playing in bands, but also did a lot of accompanying for voice studios, and had a day job for the Beverly Hills School District as their accompanist for their music programs. But then at night played at the Nordstrom 3 nights a week, and then played at a restaurant that had singing waiters and waitresses 3 nights a week, and then played in cover bands and casual bands and
in Los Angeles. So what was the gig like for Los Angeles for the schools accompanying for people?
It was great. It was like being a halftime teacher. I had benefits. I had insurance benefits.
Oh man.
And I got all the holidays off. And so I did that for about almost 3 years. And then the budget cuts came along, and the PTA was trying to figure out a way to keep my salary going. It's a job position they'd had for about 18 years. And they tried to keep it going, but they couldn't find a legal loophole where they could come up with the money to keep it going. But it was interesting because you had a really interesting group of parents, like, Billy D. Williams, Paula Prentice and her husband, Richard Benjamin. I think we had, there were some, you're Beverly Hills. So you have
right.
the Craco, that electronics company, Craco.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I remember I taught piano lessons to a girl. I went to her house, and her father was a casting agent for Young and the Restless.
Oh,
so that's the kind of parents we had. So they were trying to keep my salary going, but it was time to move on to probably.
Yeah.
I would have.
Yeah.
It was a good job to graduate. Be able to between that and Nordstrom and the restaurant gig I had with the singing waiters, I had a pretty decent income and I could still freelance.
So a couple of things I'm thinking about is, number one, there's no music really in Los Angeles schools at all, unless it's private or the PTA pays for somebody to come in, which is kind of sad.
That's very sad. That's so sad.
And then people don't. I don't know how many people remember this, but Nordstrom's used to employ piano players to play on their ground floor for people to as they walked in. And how cool was that?
Yeah, I was on the one. I played at the one in the West Side Pavilion.
Oh,
and the escalators met, and unfortunately for me, right near the shoe department, which is one of my vices. I love shoes. So I was like, on my break, I was just wandering through the brass plum shoe department. And I got a discount too. But it was a crazy. I have my friend who was the head pianist. She was the one in charge of all of us. Actually, the way I got that job is they bought their Steinway from Sherman Clay, and my piano teacher from college, his wife was working there. So he called a bunch of us and said, "Hey, go down and get some hours." So we all called and used him as a referral. And my friend got down. She became the piano manager. She got the most hours. She had stock options and insurance benefits. She had her baby for free, pretty much.
Oh, okay. So I'm thinking, as I'm remembering, and we're going to get to that today. In those days, and everybody that I've been talking to, most people I'm calling that I'm friends with and doing these things with are those of us that have been around for a while. Remember when musicians had opportunities to pay and make money, and how it really disappeared. I mean, even up till before this coronavirus thing, it was getting more and more difficult for a working musician to find work. So I mean, and you're helping me remember some of those things.
There was so much. I mean, I didn't worry about it. But my dad, though, when I was in high school, my dad pulled me aside one day and he said, "Listen, your mother and I think it's great. You want to be a professional musician?" Because I knew at a young age that I was just going to do that.
Yeah.
And he said, it might not hurt to have some backup skills. So then I took shorthand, which is another lost art, but I took shorthand and office procedures in high school, and that put me through college, and that put me through anytime I had some downtime or I wanted to make a change. I'd say, you know what, maybe I'll go temp for a while. And I was always able to land a really good paying job. Even during my breaks from college, the temp agencies would call my mom to ask when I was coming back.
Wow.
And they'd have work lined up for me for the whole summer.
And I wonder how many people remember what shorthand is.
I know. I won the stenographer's award when I graduated from high school. Wow. I took from the level I was in. We had we had 2 levels, and I took dictation at 120 words a minute from the congressional record. And the girl in the advanced class did 140.
Oh, man, that's
and back then, movie studios wanted somebody who could do some kind of speed writing. So I could have stayed in LA and probably temped for the movie studios. I didn't even think about that, but I would come home and live with my parents every summer because I actually paid my own way through USC. Back then, you could do it. It wasn't $65,000 a year back then.
So you could actually work. No, college tuition wasn't that expensive.
No.
And you could actually work as a musician and shorthand and temp work and pay your schooling.
I had a loan. I think I had but the maximum was $2,500 a year for an undergrad. So I probably graduated with about $11,000, $12,000 of debt, which back then felt like $1 million, but
right.
But it was, but when you look at it, the big picture, it was really nothing.
Yeah, my daughter, my daughter going through UCLA was 120,000 something.
Yeah, it's crazy now. I don't know how people do it now. It's crazy.
No, yeah. So now you were working and you're doing all that stuff. What got you your first? What got you leading up to the Andy Williams thing? Because was that like one of the first really significant things that happened for you?
I really wanted to. I had this big. I wanted to play on a pop tour. I just wanted to be on a big pop tour, and so I started. I started getting calls for auditions. So my first big audition was for Barry Manilow, and I'm a huge Barry Manilow fan. But I was very green. But I got this phone call one morning from this girl. She said, "Hey, they're looking for a keyboard player. Do you want me to give them your number?" And I went, "Sure." So I got a phone call, and the first thing they asked was, "Well, what kind of gear do you have?"
What kind of gear do you have?
So at the time, I had a Yamaha DX7S. This was a long time ago. A Yamaha DX7S. I had a Cord T3, which I bought from Queensryche. That's a funny story. We'll have to get to that one. That's a very funny story. And I had a Proteus 1. So when I told them that, they said, "Okay, you can audition." Isn't that funny?
Yeah. And when looking back at those instruments, you're like, what?
Yeah. I mean, when I actually sold them because I was cleaning out. I said, you know what? I'm not going to play these. I've got samples now. I've got main stage. I've got plugins. Right. I have a Yamaha MOFX8 I really love. I have a Casio that has, that I really like the action. It's got built-in speakers. I take that up to my mom's assisted living place and play songs for them. I have a Yamaha P90 in my storage unit that I also liked a lot. I got that. That doesn't have speakers built into it though, but I got that to be able just to practice and just if I want to just on a piano gig, I can take one small thing out. Of course, it's not that. This Casio only weighs 22 pounds, but
I know.
But I had an Ensoniq TS12 at one time. Have you ever lifted one of those things? Yeah. My brother-in-law said, I thought that people stopped using a Fender Rhodes because he goes, this thing's as heavy as a Fender Rhodes.
I gave away a Fender Rhodes 73 in mint shape just because I gave it away just because I didn't want to have to carry it.
We used to use when I was still in high school, my sister got a job as a musical director at a church that had a Fender Pro piano. And we would use that for gigs, but we'd have to go the night before the gig and get it out of the choir loft. And we'd have to get it down these stairs and then put it in her little Honda and had the seat down. Then I would have to lie on top of the case so we could get it home. And then we'd have to park in my parents' garage because we had the instrument in there. We don't want to get stolen. So we'd park in the garage and move my dad's car out and then take it to the gig. Then we'd have to go back and return it before mass the next day.
Oh, man. You know, things have gotten a little easier.
Yeah, the things that you used to do to do a gig, you know.
So how did the audition go with Barry Manilow?
Oh, well, it was funny. I got a phone call. Well, I went, it was cattle call, and I was one of the last groups to audition. And it was on a Friday. They said, "Can you come back Monday?" I said, "Sure." So I was just really excited. You know, I wasn't even going to care if I got the gig or not. I was just like so excited that I made it to that step that I actually got to audition for a big artist. And the night before that Sunday night, they left a message saying, "Oh, can you transcribe the string parts till I made it through the rain?" So I was up till about 4 in the morning. Got there at 9 the next day at SIR, and then we all had to play. We all met Barry and had to play. And so I went back for 3 days of callbacks. But I didn't get the gig because they went with like some really big famous guy that played with Jean-Luc Ponty. But I was just so proud of myself that I'd gotten to that level. You know, I go, oh, I did my first audition. Yay. You know, so.
Yeah. And what was Barry like? Was he nice?
He was very nice. And then years later, I did Lion King here in San Francisco with his guitarist. So when I moved to Vegas, Barry had a residency there. So I got a ticket to go see the show. And we were all hanging in the bar after. And Mike said, "Do you want to meet Barry?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, I met him years ago." So by then I had like about 3 drinks in me. So he said, "Barry's our friend Tish. She's here playing with Jersey Boys." And he said, "Oh," I said, "Well, I met you years ago. I auditioned for you." He goes, "Really? Did I hire you?" I said, "No, but you gave me 3 days of callbacks." He said, "But you're working, right?" I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Great. That's good to hear."
Man, that's funny.
Then my second big audition, so my neighbor in my apartment in Sherman Oaks was Nathan Watts.
Really?
Yeah. And at the time I moved into that building, I had met his cousin, Vincent. I'd been playing in a hip hop band, and we had done a thing at Coconut Teaser, and Vincent's band was going on right after us. And as I was walking off the stage, he said, do you have a business card? He said, we want a female keyboard player. We're going to be losing ours. She's moving. And I said, sure. So he and I became friends. Well, he was one of the founding members of Radio.
Oh, man.
And a great keyboard player. So he said, so we got to be real good friends. So he dropped over some cassettes. This was back in the days of cassettes.
Well, over the 8-track tape part.
Right. Yeah. So he stopped by my apartment, and my roommate and I were already boxing up stuff so we could move to a bigger place, and around the corner. And he said, "Oh," he goes, "my cousin lives in that apartment building." He goes, "Nathan." He goes, "He plays bass for C. Stevie's band leader." And it just kind of went over my head, just did. Mm. So I moved in there. One time, so this is funny. I was trying to load my amp into my car for this Barry Manilow audition, my big PV amp into my car. And he came out, he was up early, and he goes, "Can I help you?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, I said, "You're not Nathan, are you?" And he said, "Who wants to know?" I said, "Well, if you are, I'm going to play in a hip hop band with your cousin." He goes, Yeah, that's me. So then we became really, really good friends. So one night I got a phone call from him, and he said, "What are you doing tonight?" And I said, "Nothing." And he goes, "You want to audition for a tour?" And I said, "Sure, I guess so." I said, "For who?" He goes, "Stevie." And I go, "Stevie who?"
No.
He goes, Wonder, what's wrong with you? Wonder. I said, oh, okay. I'm thinking Stevie Nicks, Stevie, I don't know. I was so like in my own little spacey world. So that was a really interesting audition. We had to meet at Wonderland Studios at 8:00. And it was to play string lines. And I said, "Well, do you want me to bring what gear do you want me to bring?" He goes, "Nothing, just come with your fingers." He just wants to know if you can play pretty. So the audition was basically, we got there at 8, but Stevie didn't come till about 11. And so basically it was sit at the piano and jam with Stevie for about 30 minutes. Well, he just started tuning. You just had to find his key. Because they had 2 pianos set up. He had a really nice Bosendorfer in there. Whoa. And then a big Yamaha next to it. So it was like just jam with Stevie for half an hour. So he'd start a tune. You had to find his key and just start playing along with him. But he said, first thing he said, he goes, "Do you know a lot of my songs?" I said, "Yeah." He said, let's play one I just wrote." So there's all these 2-5-1s. And I was going, why didn't I practice this more in college? Why I practiced the 2 more jazz stuff. Anyway, it was fun. And then he would start like a song like "Signed, Sealed, Delivered," "I Bet You by Golly Wow," and "Knocks Me Off My Feet." Yeah. So we never found out who got the gig because it got canceled or postponed or something.
Oh.
And then my next audition was Andy Williams. But the fun part was going into Guitar Center a week later with a friend of mine who was looking to buy a keyboard for her mom. And when I walked into the keyboard section, one of the salesmen, he said, "Hey, do you remember me?" He goes, "Remember me?" Because I'm one of Stevie's keyboard techs. I was at your audition last week. And then he yelled, "Take care of this girl." And I went, "Oh, this is kind of nice." So that, and then after that was the Andy Williams audition, and I got that gig. And I wasn't sure about I was like, I don't really want to leave LA, but I have a gig, so what do? Do you go get the gig on the name on your resume? And so while I was in Branson, I ended up, I always loved country music. I started getting into it in LA. Remember when it was really big in the 90s?
Yeah.
It was huge. It was huge. And so I mean, I remember driving home from somewhere and hearing Trisha Yearwood's first song come on the radio, and I instantly pulled into the first Tower Records I came up on and ran in and bought her CD because I thought her voice was so incredible. And the songs were good, and the playing on it was really good. And I was like going, wow, people are still playing piano on these recordings. I wonder what it'd be like to go to Nashville. And so then I ended up doing the Branson thing and meeting a bunch of players from Nashville. And that's when I got connected with that female country, with that band Wild Rose out there. And I did some gigs with them.
Well, so you were all that in Los Angeles, and the gigs I hear you doing, and you Nathan Watts, and you're auditioning for Stevie and Barry Manilow. That's funny, like Stevie who.
Right. I was like, okay, sure.
Right. So from that to Branson, though.
Yeah, it was strange. I think I just wanted to be working. I wasn't sure. I talked to a couple of my musician friends in LA who are on high profile gigs. I go, what, should I do this? And they said, yeah. They go, look, and you've been thinking of checking out Nashville. You'll be right close by. They go, yeah, you're getting a name on your resume. So, because a lot of times it was like, well, who's on your resume? I go, well, at the Barry Manilow audition, when they took my picture, they said, so, you don't have any names on your resume. I said, well, if you hire me for the gig, I'll have yours.
Right. That's a beautiful one.
So I did it, and it was a good experience. I may have stayed longer than maybe I had in mind on that gig, but it was a good gig, and we toured, and I got to play Royal Albert Hall a couple times one time with Petula Clark. We sold it out. I mean, who knew, Yeah. We sold out Royal Albert Hall.
Well, I got to tell you, I think today people remembering Andy Williams' voice may not really remember. I grew up in the 60s listening to music, and the 60s and early 70s when Andy Williams was, I mean, it's the most wonderful time of the year.
Yeah. Oh, it's a class. That's a classic.
And his voice, he was an amazing singer.
He was. His variety show, the guests he had on it, Ella Fitzgerald, Woody Allen, people like that. Jobim. He has Jobim as a guest on his variety show.
So I think we sort of lose track back to when he was really at his peak.
Yeah.
What he was and what he was doing was, I mean, he was a slouch.
No, he was the real deal.
Yeah.
And I remember there's a great video. Our guitarist had been with him for a long time, and when he was real young, when our guitarist he got the gig when he was 19, and he showed me a video of playing with the London Symphony. Amazing stuff.
Yeah. So Andy Williams did, and when he was really at his peak, he was hosting. Didn't he host the Grammys a few times? And those things.
I think it was the Grammys, and he sang on the Oscars.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you did his show, did he do? Whenever I played some of those kinds of people's shows, they would talk about their experiences, and they have video clips and those sorts of things.
Oh yeah.
And so it was fun, and the people that would show up, I'm guessing, would be people that really knew and appreciated.
Oh yeah,
kinds of things.
And then he had a whole generation of fans in the UK. He did a car commercial, music to watch girls buy, and all of a sudden he had this whole big resurgence of popularity. We had fans showing up anywhere from the age of 18 to 90.
Wow.
With mohawks and different color, multicolored hair and piercings all over to grandma, people in their 90s. We had a following over there. It was crazy. People would wait outside for the band's autograph. We're going, okay, this is it was yeah. He had a whole British fan club that would fly out to Branson every year for a week and come to the show all week. And then some of the other fans from the rest of the country would come and join them. So we got to know all these people.
So how many shows a week were you doing?
Oh, it was crazy. We did 8. No, 12. Excuse me. 6 days a week, 12 shows, 2 a day. the first couple years, and then he started scaling it back during the summer.
2 shows a day, 6 days a week. That's almost like my circus gig.
Yeah, it was crazy. And I used to program the synthesizers for it. So I kind of fell into that. So I learned, I used to program, for my pop gigs, but then I learned how to set them up. And I didn't realize that I was setting up the synths for his show the same way they set up keyboards for Broadway shows. I did not realize that that's what I was doing. So.
Okay. So you did that for 14 years?
His gig I did for 7.
Oh, 7. Okay.
Yeah.
And then what'd you?
Maybe 8, close to 8.
Okay. So then you were in Branson. It doesn't sound like you had much time to really go out and connect with other folks, but you were able to network and get to know some people, though.
Yeah, I did go sit in on the country bars at night after my show got off because I wanted to learn to play country music. And I remember I met this one guy. He was at the time he was playing keyboards for Glenn Campbell. He goes, "Why do you want to learn to play country music?" And I said, "Because I love it." He goes, "But you play classical and you're into jazz and stuff." I go, "I love country music." And so I would go in and the guys in the bars were, Mel Tillis had a resort and he had a club in there called the Mole Hole. And so I got to know guys in his band and I told them, "I want to learn to play country music." So they would let me sit in. Mm-hmm. And then there was another guy who played at Roy Clark's Lodge and he would let me sit in a couple times. And then they would tell me who to go home and listen to. They go listen to your Merle Haggard, go listen to your Patsy Cline, go. And so I learned a lot from these guys. And then my really close friend, Rick King, he was Louise Mandrell's musical director. He taught me how to read Nashville number charts.
They're different, aren't they?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. But they make sense. They make really good sense. If you think like I've always thought intervallically. So basically, 1, 4, 5, 6. So he taught me the little details in between. Like everything's a major unless it says minor after it, unless it has a minus sign after it.
Yeah. So
then I picked up little other intricacies.
Yeah. What the feel I'm trying to from playing in LA and then Andy Williams band and now you're country and playing with real country people. They have a really different feel in their music. Mm-hmm. And when you played, was it really noticeable in setting in when you were playing with them and locking into that groove? And
oh yeah, I didn't know what to do when I first sat down. I didn't know what to do, and they just said play. And then afterwards, I'd get feedback, and it's very much a less is more style. And they said don't feel bad. They go, every piano player that's ever moved to Nashville overplays in the beginning. So don't feel bad. Everybody overplays. So then I started listening to all these great players and trying to connect with them as they came through Branson. And then when I was going to play with Wild Rose and they sent me their music to learn, a couple of the piano players were coming through Branson. So I got in touch with them and I said, "Hey, when you're in Branson, I'm going to be playing every lick you ever played on these recordings. Can I pick your brain?" So it's just like anything. You guys just sit there and get used to it. But it's so easy it's like, where do I play? Where, you figure out where you fit in the rhythm section. But it's definitely a less is more style. And they trade fills. Not everybody, like maybe one time the fiddle's going to play on the fill on the verse. And then the piano will, it's like everything's kind of mapped out that way. So no one's stepping on anyone's toes. It's very clean. Because we were playing very traditional sounding stuff back then too, so it's a very, very, very clean sounding. And
Merle Haggard and Mel Tillis and those kinds of guys, those the real original kind of country.
Yeah,
it was just boom, duck, boom. Mm-hmm. I mean, there was there wasn't a lot of stuff.
No, and people weren't stepping all over each other just to make noise. It was very tasteful.
Yeah,
and what's funny is the guys that I play a couple of the after hours bands I did in Branson. One of them was called the Horn Dogs, and we did a lot of R&B stuff. Our drummer, John Brown, incredible drummer. He played the most. He had been Loretta Lynn. One of the artists he worked for years was Loretta Lynn. So I would go see him playing the Country Tonight Show, and just the most beautiful, tasteful, stylistic drumming. And then he would play R&B with us. Like we'd be doing Blood, Sweat, and Tears tunes, and Little Feat, Let It Roll, and he also was a really good big band drummer too. So people think, I can't believe I still know people who go, oh, like they think that they're surprised when I tell them the musicians I met in Nashville, I said, you guys, there's some great musicians down there.
Right.
And I just read recently that they're doing a lot of video game recording down there because these session players walk in and just nail it,
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but I got to, one of the things that why I've wanted to do this, and this is what I'm finding fascinating, because the history in music that you have already is unbelievable. And I think we're back. Okay. So there's some really weird things that go on with this, where there was a broadcast error. It shut down. I reconnected, and I think we're still back live. But I am at the mercy of the internet. So I'm sorry for interrupting your Pam Tillis.
That's all right.
So all right. So I think we're back good now. So back to Pam Tillis, please.
Okay. So we went to meet her with her band afterwards to eat, because we knew her band leader, friends of mine. And then they said, we're going down to Pam's dad's club. You guys want to come? We said, sure. So I was sitting at the table with her. And then she said, you know what? I think I'm going to get up and do, maybe it was Memphis. And we don't have a piano player. Do you want to play with us? And I went, oh. And I love that song. So I got to play Maybe It Was Memphis with Pam.
Nice.
Which was really fun.
Nice.
So yeah, nice woman. Talented lady. Great songwriter. She was and that's when she was always she was getting all CMA vocalist of the year, or female vocalist of the year, 2 or 3 times or something. She was getting all the very popular back then.
I've never really been a big country fan, but I sort of pay attention because I do like the music. Some of the drum grooves on that stuff is really different. I talked to people from Oakland, because I lived around the Bay for a long time, is that the feel of that Oakland is so different than anywhere else. And that country feel is the same thing. Everything just plays so different. And I've always admired it. And it
took me a while to get it in my body. It took me a while. And even when I played with the girls in Wild Rose, they said this. They said, they told me, we want to have you in the band. We like the fact that you're classically trained. It shows you're disciplined. You're really serious. They said, it's just a feel thing. And we know you're new at this. And so I studied. I took their tapes with me because I had to go do a tour of Japan with Andy Williams before I was going to play with them. So I took all their recordings and I worked on it. I would go to sound check early, and I would plug. I had a little Ibanez. Remember those little Ibanez cassette players where you could plug something in and play along with the recording? Yeah. I bought one of those in Japan. In Japan, I bought an Ibanez thing, and I would practice the tunes playing along with them, and I would listen to. I just had all this music with me to listen to, like Ricky Skaggs, because they were kind of. I was trying to. One of the songs they did had that kind of fast bluegrassy feeling. I want to play a decent solo on it. So I was just throwing myself into it. I buried myself into it. Which is what you have to do, I think, when you're learning a style of music. And it still takes a while to get to play it and get it into your body before it makes sense.
Into your body is the exact describe it. You almost have to sit there and just move with them for a while, because it's really interesting. The straight eighth grooves are almost a swing, but it's not swing. I call it swang.
Play with a swang. It was fun. It was a really fun. That was a great bunch of girls too. They were all incredibly talented and just wonderful musicians and just really great people.
Then so moving then on to that now. So we've got Stevie Wonder, Barry Manilow, all that stuff, LA stuff, and then you got your country stuff. How did you transition into Broadway?
Well, I had done musical, played in orchestra pits in high school. I did and I would get hired as a rehearsal pianist for the other high schools on my peninsula.
Right.
So I knew shows, and I grew up, watching the movie musicals, and I had accompanied a lot of voice lessons. So I knew, selections from certain musicals, but it wasn't something I actively pursued. And then I came back to the Bay Area, and I came back. My sister got diagnosed with breast cancer for a second time. So I had a big hiatus from the Andy Williams gig. So I came back to help her, and they had a membership drive to join the union, $20 across the country. It was like membership was on sale. So I went, we were in the city for one of our chemo appointments, and I walked down to the union office from the hotel, and I went and I joined, and the guy said, I said, well, I'm new in town. I'm new back, I'm kind of, and he said, well, we got a new contractor. And these are his exact words. We have a new contractor and he's looking for fresh blood. You should give him a call. And he hands me a piece of paper and he has Kevin Porter's number on it.
When I got your number.
Yeah.
When it is.
Yeah. So I called Kevin and we talked and I said, well, so he said, well, send me a resume. And so it was a while before I actually got to work. But he called me about coming in for something that had to do with ragtime, but I was on my way to Nashville for a gig. And so when I came back to town, he sent me over to play. Did you ever know Melanie Bryson? Incredible pianist. Yeah.
And Kent, yeah.
Melanie, the first call keyboard player for the shows. So he said, I'm going to send you over to play for Melanie Bryson. If she gives you the okay, I'll put you on the list. So I called Melanie, made an appointment, went to her house. She had me sight read some stuff. Great, wonderful woman, so incredibly talented. She was so amazingly talented. Great person. And so Melanie was really supportive. Said, okay, I'm going to tell Kevin to put you on the list. And she was very supportive of, getting all of us girls that played the shows. She was our mentor. So it was a while before I played a show. I remember Kevin called me about when Mamma Mia was coming through. And for the pre-Broadway, they were doing it here pre-Broadway. And he was trying to get me on it, but he was getting, I hadn't been here as long as other people. So, but I did get in on part of that minimums thing where they had to hire a minimum amount of people. And then sometimes they had to hire extra people to get paid. Remember that whole walking the walk. So I got a couple of walking checks from that. Cool. And so I finally did the first show I did finally get to do was Mamma Mia, the first national tour, like about almost a year later from that. Well, no, actually, yeah, almost a year later when it was coming through as the first national tour. I had gone to Broadway and then there was the first national tour. And I was supposed to do Smokey Joe's Cafe down at Theater Works. And I got the call from Kevin and Melanie. I had one on my house phone and one on my cell phone. They called around the same time, wondering what my availability was. So
were the people, did the Mamma Mia show, did they hire, were the people out of New York, were they hiring?
They were hired. The cast was from New York. It was the tour, but as they go through the cities, they have to use local musicians.
Right.
So the traveling musicians were the conductor, the associate conductor, drums, bass, guitar, and guitar one. That's how I met Drew Zing on that gig.
Okay.
So, and then the keyboards were all local, and the percussionist was local. So that's how I met all my great friends like Alan Biggs, Julie Homey. Julie sat in front of me in the pit.
Yeah, wow.
So that was my first gig, was big theater gig on a national tour level, was Mamma Mia first national tour when it came through San Francisco. And then I became their vacation sub. So I met some nice people. That was a fun show. And I'm a big ABBA fan, so I loved playing it every night. It was fun.
That music is pretty great.
Yeah. And it was really cool because they had at that time they had 4 keyboards. The conductor played and then 3 keyboards. And they were, sometimes we'd be triggering a sample. Most of the time we were playing, but sometimes we were triggering because they wanted it to sound like the record. The Benny and Bjorn wanted it to sound as close, so we had those cool little, I loved I think they were way ahead of their time when they came out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. There were a lot of keyboard parts.
Mm-hmm. Tons. Yeah.
Right. So that ended, and then when did you start doing Jersey Boys?
Well, I did several years of shows. Back there was a time where there were a lot of shows coming through San Francisco. Mm-hmm. And so you'd have a show running at the Curran, a show running at the Golden Gate, and a show running at the Orpheum. Oh, so there'd be a lot of keyboard players working. Mm-hmm. And I did Mamma Mia again when it came to the second time. I did Lion King. I was a sub on Lion King. Hardest show I've ever done, I think.
Yeah. Now, when you did Lion King, was it John Mater and Andy or Andrew Higgins? And
I was a sub, and I felt that was a tough show. I just remember the first time going over to sub it. I was living in Sausalito. So halfway across the Golden Gate Bridge, I just got this big lump in my stomach, went, oh my gosh. Because I was still pretty green about shows. I said, I know my part. I don't really know the show. You really have to know the show when you're playing. And I was, one of the books I subbed on was the rhythm section book. And I was like, I didn't realize how much that drove the rhythm section. So it was a big, I went from here to here. It was a scary, it was this, and then tons of conducting cues. I had never watched a conductor that much. Tons of conducting cues. So they did have a video. I found out they had a video. So I borrowed it, and so every time I had to sub on that show, I would get up in the morning, eat a huge breakfast. It was like I was praying for a marathon, and then I would play through the show with those cues. Wow. But then there'd be those doubled show days where maybe the matinee I was playing book 3, and then the evening show I was playing book 1. I'd have to walk around and clear my head because there's different cues. So it was the hardest show I've ever. But after doing that, I said, you know what? I am always going to do. What made me realize how prepared you have to be for a show. You really have to know. You have to know what's going on in all the other parts you're playing with. Who am I playing with this in this part? Who am I playing? I mean, it really was a huge a big eye opener for me. So then after that I did Little Shop of Horrors, filled in on them. Most of the time I was a sub. Mm-hmm. Mamma Mia was a full time. I was one of the local full time keyboards, but the other times I would maybe be a sub. But I'd get 5 shows a weekend on Lion King a lot of the time, and that really helped solidify. But it was just I was always like, it was such a tense show. I was like, I started thinking, I don't think I'm cut out for the show thing. This show thing is a whole nother ball game. But that was the hardest show. It was that, and Phantom. I never played Phantom, but I heard that was a hard one.
I'm not that familiar with the music. I've avoided it like the plague. But I do know from my daughter's perspective now, running audio, running in front of house for those kinds of shows is the same with musicians. The kind of, you've got to be kind of paying attention, and it's different every night with every actor and every musician. And I'm like, oh, come on, that's just too hard. Yeah.
So then Jersey Boys. Well, then I got the I was supposed to play Cats, and then I got a call to come and audition for Zinzani, Teatro Zinzani. So I auditioned and got the gig, and then they were willing to wait for me to start till after Cats, but Kevin said, no, you need to start that gig now. Go ahead and bring me back the music, and we'll get somebody else. So I never got to do Cats, but Zinzani was a blast. I had a great time. So while I was at Zinzani is when I got hooked up with Jersey Boys. And the funny thing was, someone was asking me about Jersey Boys, and I didn't know much about it, but I called a friend of mine, a conductor in New York, and he said, oh, you should call my friend Karen. She's on the gig in San Francisco. You guys should hang out. You guys would get along great. She doesn't know anybody out there. So I called her, and she called me back, and she had this cough. She goes, hey, can you sing? Do you want to sub for me? Because on that show, the band had to sing at that time. So I was like, So I drove in. She left the music with the security guard at the Curran. I went and I Xeroxed it, started learning it. So she trained me, basically. I never got to actually sub for her. But then when the tour left, they were here a year. They brought in the Chicago company. And they wanted to bring in their whole band. And our union said no. So they compromised. They brought in their 3 keyboard players, a conductor and the 2 keyboard players, and used Local 6. So when they were rehearsing in New York, a lot of my San Francisco musician friends were on it. So when that girl asked, because our chair had to be female, the way they designed the show. She said, well, who do I get for a sub? And they all said, my name came up. So she called me, she goes, well, see, your name came up from everybody, so I guess you're the one. And then so she's become one of my best friends now too. And Joanne Doherty, incredible piano player in Chicago. And so I subbed for her. And then they offered me, when they put up the Vegas show, they offered me the Vegas, and I wasn't sure if I should take it because I just bought a condo in Oakland. I just bought my condo. And, the drummer on it, Dave Rokich, he said, I think that you'd be really responsible to turn it down. He goes, it's only going to run for a year. You could live in Vegas for a year. I go, yeah, I could do that. Well, it ran 8.5.
8.5 years.
8.5 years. And it was such a great show. It was so, I mean, so top notch. I don't think I'm ever going to top that. It was the band I played with there was incredible. The cast was amazing. All the bells and whistles. The fans we met that kept coming and coming. I know so many fans all over the country from this show that I've gotten to be very good friends with. It's been quite and it was a great show. It was so fun to go in every night and play the music. It was such fun music to play. I never got tired of playing. I mean, I got tired of the schedule, and that's when you take time off. You take a night off or take a weekend off or something. But I never got tired of playing the music.
Well, I watch your Facebook page every now and then, and I didn't get some of I wanted to show some pictures, but you have so many pictures of different people who were taking pictures with you, all the different people you met, rock stars and it's
D. Snyder came to the show one night.
Right.
Warren Buffett, Clint Eastwood, Bruno Mars. That was fun. That was a fun one. Bruno Mars came to the show, and afterwards, he took a picture with the cast, and I waited and I asked him for a picture, and he said, "You're the keyboard player," because the band would come on stage at the end. Mm-hmm. The whole cast was on stage, and we're all doing the big production. We're on stage. We all had to sing and do choreography, and he said, "You're the keyboard player up there," and I said, "Yeah." Bruno Mars recognized me from the audience. We had famous golfers. I don't know if you're a golfer, but Tom Weisskopf came to the show one night.
I know who he is. I'm not. Do you play golf, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. A little rusty right now, but I was taking lessons at the Butch Harmon School in Vegas. So
okay, all right.
I was taking lessons with one of the teachers there, and then I ended up dating his son, who was also a teacher there. So I would get to use the video base for free. But one time I was in there practicing, and I looked up, and Butch is standing there watching me swing, and I'm thinking, yeah, this is like having Herbie Hancock watch me practice jazz scales.
That's funny. That's funny. So so this is what's fascinating. Okay, so we actually have been on about an hour.
Oh, how funny!
And hearing all of your stories about you, I knew a little bit about what you'd done, but I had no idea the depth of what you'd done or what you have done. I should learn how to speak. So now the Jersey Boys just closed just recently, right?
Yeah, well, it closed in Vegas in 2016, and then I went on the tour for 2 years
with Jersey Boys.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that ended now just recently, or is it? Yeah. Because
of COVID. And I mean, I was already off of it, but they had to end early. Like a lot of the tours and shows had to end early, wrap up early because of this COVID.
Yeah.
So now I'm in the COVID-19 Academy of Music and Video Production, and I'm working with Logic. I'm using the Logic Pro Professional Training Manual here, and a lot of videos I can find, and a lot of friends who use it. I pick their brain, and then I'm kind of getting into. I want to do one of those compilation videos of an arrangement of Shallow that I did for the cast.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
I lined up some of my singer friends in Vegas and LA and a couple here, and I'm in the process of finishing up the click track, and I want to learn how to do that. So I think, well, this is a project. So
you've also done a couple of live streams, right? On your Facebook page.
I did. That was a video. That one I did on Easter Sunday was a video. I videotaped myself playing, and then I learned how to import the audio file into iMovie and then line it up, sync it up with the waves.
Right.
And splice in some pictures, and so it's fun. I'm kind of a tech nerd. I really get into the nerdy part of. I do have a nerdy side. People don't know that. That's like people don't know I love country music, but I have a nerd side.
Well,
also, I would also kill to play in a salsa band. So if anyone's salsa band out there, I'm killing to. When this COVID thing is done, I would kill to play in a salsa band.
Right. So. Well, I know that you're a little bit of a techie kind of gal because you got the blue.
This thing is great. I love it.
The Yeti.
Yeti Blue. Here it is, folks.
Right. That's what
I highly recommend it.
Yeah, if they're going to do any kind of live streaming or podcasts or anything, that's the thing to have.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the other thing that in the conversation is I didn't know that you sang. And
well, I don't do it very often in public, but I actually had to sing backup with Andy Williams. That's why I got hired, because there were a couple. I had to sing the end of the Hawaiian Wedding song with him. That's why they wanted a girl on that particular book.
And I'm trying to remember the song now. Yeah, I forget the Hawaiian Wedding song.
So I took lessons a little bit on and off. I took them in college. This is so funny. I took voice lessons in college from a grad student, and I was great. I said, this would be good. This would make me marketable when I graduate, because it's good to be a keyboard player who can sing. And I was always shy about singing growing up, even though I was in my high school choir. But then I ended up becoming the accompanist second semester. So, but I have a sister who sings. I was always embarrassed to sing in front of her because she's a good singer.
But you sound good. So this audio thing that you sent me, I'd actually like to play it.
Oh, that's not me singing. That's actually not me singing that.
Oh,
that's my friend Jolana, who wrote the lyrics, who we co-wrote that song.
Oh,
no, I wish I could sing like her. She's amazing. Oh, I wish that were me.
Yeah. Do you mind if I play a little bit of that?
No, that's okay. I wrote the piano arrangement. Okay. And we wrote that for our friend. Did you ever work with Dina Bennett in LA?
Yes, before she passed away.
Yeah, she was my old roommate and a really close friend. So we wrote that song for her. That's her song. That's her singing. Jolana's a genius. And so when I told Jolana, I want to write this song, my friend's coming through with Wicked, and I want to perform on there's this monthly singer-songwriter showcase in Vegas that our conductor from Jersey Boys created with his friends years ago. And so I wanted to do something with Dina when she came through with Wicked. And so Jolana came over, and I was telling her about Dina's story, that, she's traveling and she's having chemo and this is what's going on. And so these lyrics popped into Jolana's head, and we sat at the piano, and she'd sing something and I'd play something. And it was really a cool collaboration, because I'd never really done that. I would love to get into more of that songwriting type of collaboration. So we wrote that for Dina. So it's basically Dina talking, because this was a recurrence of her cancer. So it's basically, it's about overcoming an obstacle. And for her, it just happened to be the cancer was the obstacle, but that's what the song is about. Like, you're not going to bring me down,
Okay, so. I'm going to play it. Oh.
I've known you before. The moment you walk through my door, a familiar face I can't erase, but you are not welcome here anymore. I know what you do, and inside I still refuse to poison my spirit. I don't wanna hear it. This time I'm stronger than you. Go tame me or make me, but you will not break me. I dare you to try to bring me down. I don't fall that easy. I know to never stop believing in what I'm not willing to lose. I'll wage this war between myself and you. I will stand my ground. You can't bring me down. I know no defeat, and I won't go quietly. I'll rage through the night. Now I've seen both sides, and I'm willing to fight to be free. It's strange how you've changed me, but you'll never claim me. I dare you to try. stop believing in what I'm not willing to lose. I'll wage this war between myself and you. I will stand my ground. You can bring me down. I'm not afraid to lose control. I'm not afraid of you at all. Through the dark I've learned to fly. I won't back down. No, I don't fall that easy. I know now to never stop believing in what I'm not willing to lose. I've won this war before, and that's when I knew. You will not break me, not next time, not maybe. No matter what you put me through, here I will stand. I don't regret you, but I will beg you, you will never bring me down. No, you can't bring me down.
Joanna.
Wow.
Yeah, she's got an amazing voice. She's amazing. She's just an amazing person, talent.
So something occurred to me though while I was listening to you play. I don't think people understand the difference between just playing piano and being an accompanist, or I can't even say it.
And you know what was fun? What was fun about that for me is that I didn't just play chords. I actually came up with a part that supported what was going on in the vocal line. Like, okay, if it's going to go up here, so the first verse is going to stay here, like a tiered thing. Then the second verse, I'm going to play a little higher in the register, and I'm going to play and actually the specific rhythms. I actually have a specific piano part written out for that song. So, yeah,
that was beautiful.
That was really something. And then writing, and then because we wrote it for Dina, it was really close to my heart. You know, she was such a great friend.
I got a chance to work with her. I did an event. She was good friends with a catering person down here, Paula. And we did a job. And not too long after that is when the whole cancer thing came out. And it was such a sad story because everybody loved her. I mean, she was.
She was this wonderful person. Yeah. I still see her mom. I saw her mom when I was on tour last year. We went through Louisiana, and I spent some time with her mom.
Nice.
And we had a guy in the show on the cast who had worked with her in Wicked. So the two of us went over and had lunch with her mom, and then I ended up spending some extra time there.
Yeah. So you've had such an amazing career, and now this is going to be like part 4 for you. You know.
Yeah. You know what it is now though? Now I think I want to do more of what I want to do. You know. Yeah. That's what I'm feeling like. I want the things that I wanted to play that I kind of put aside because I was busy making a good living, and I didn't really nurture those things because there's only so many hours in a day, you know, and I mean, you can be, you know, playing a show at night, but then when you come home, maybe the last thing you want to do is play more music, even though you love it. It's, you know, your brain has to rest. So it's been this is an unfortunate situation going on in the world right now. So I'm trying to make lemons out of lemonade, and I'm getting excited about. I would like to sing more because I used to sing in bands, and I would like to do that more, and I would like to collaborate and write more. And I would, you know, I was taking this online little poetry workshop because when I went to the ASCAP Expo a few years ago, Richard Marks, I went to one of his lectures, and he said, if you want to learn to write lyrics, study poetry, start read the classics, read modern poetry, read poetry though, see how they the words flow. So, you know, but I want to really dive into writing more music. I sort of just kind of like, I won't, what if I'm not good? But you know, you can't worry about that stuff anymore. It's like it's a new world we're heading towards. It's like, who cares? You know?
and there's no
So kind of getting over myself. Got to get out of my way. Right. And I got to just step out of my way. I get in my own way is what I do,
Yeah.
So no more of that. So it's kind of fun. So I'm jumping in, trying to learn is what I can. And,
Yeah.
So it's fun. There's a lot to look forward to, hopefully, when this,
when it all gets over, that's the hard part. So, but the thing is, we have all the time now that we can try things and practice things and develop new aspects of what we do. A few people suggested, well, you might have to go get a job doing something completely different, which may be possible, but I think
that's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do, right? I mean, how many of us did that when we first got out of college?
Right.
I mean, I worked for a PR firm. I temped for a PR firm. Wow. I worked at City National Bank when I wanted to get off. One of my first gigs after college was going on the road with the New Chordettes, and so I did that. And great, I'm still in touch with them. That was a fun gig. So but after about a year and a half, I was like, I think I want to stay home more. I got a job with a City National Bank.
Well,
working for a loan officer.
I'm sorry, the New Chordettes. Do you know Bob Duncan?
Yeah, well, Judy, yeah, they're my Facebook friends.
Oh, I see. So I did sound for the four preps for.
You did for fun.
And the New Chordettes sang with them a few times, and I would do sound for them.
They were my first road gig when I got out of college. After about a year, the first gig I did with them was in Reno. It was the New Chordettes.
Yeah.
And we did we played 2 weeks in Reno, and we opened up the first week we opened up for Sister Sledge, and the second week we opened up for the Guess Who.
Oh, the Guess Who. Whoa.
And Sister Sledge, they were so much fun. They were all out for Christmas, and one sister was missing because she was pregnant, so she couldn't come out with them. She was just about to give birth. But they were so fun, and they all had their kids with them. And I'd sit backstage and play with, especially Christmas Day, I'm playing with the kids and their new toys. They were cute little kids. But I remember Kathy's husband, Phil, he was a percussionist, and he used to fill in on the symphony back there in Philadelphia. So my parents came to the show.
Oh,
because they any chance to go to Reno, my dad was in the car. You didn't have to. If you mentioned Reno, he was already up, putting a little overnight bag together. So they came, and I just remember finding my dad sitting at the bar drinking a beer with Phil, Kathy's husband, just like they're old buddies. I'm just laughing, going, "Okay, Dad, have you met Phil?" I go, "Yeah, Dad. I'm, backstage." And it's like, Dad.
That's funny. Okay. So we've been at about an hour and 15 minutes. I could talk forever, but I think maybe we ought to wrap it up.
Okay.
I mean, I don't. There's always so much more to talk about, but I think people lose their attention a little bit.
Yeah. And I talk a lot. I'm a talker, so it's probably good to cut me off now. Are you a talker? I'm a talker. Anybody who knows you, you're like, wait, what? You're a talker? What?
Yeah, no, I'm the guy. Oh, so, and I've told this story a few times, but I did sound for this band, and this keyboard player showed up that I recognized from a gig a while ago. And he said, "Oh, I remember you. You're the guy that just talked shit all night long and never stopped." And I go, "Well, at least you remember me."
I was actually in a geometry test in high school. My geometry teacher, I was in a Venn diagram. People with dark hair talk a lot. Tish has dark hair. Tish talks a lot.
That's funny. Oh man.
I intersected with the way the Venn diagrams.
Right. So I think so. What I think I'm going to do is I'm going to close out the show sort of in a normal way, except for I'm going to replay this song again and just let it play, and then I'll close out the show, if that's all right with you. And we've had people tuning in the whole time. They've held through. Even somebody texted and said, "Oh, your video went blank for a minute, but it was back, and so everything's good." But this has been great. I mean, I know so much about you. And well, here's the thing: is we never really met.
I know. This is the first time we've met sort of in person.
Right.
I think we connected on Facebook during the last election.
We oh man, and it
that was a
yeah.
Right.
And even right now,
yeah.
Don't get us started.
Right.
Because we will go until 1 a.m.
Yeah.
Oh man. All right. Well, I'm gonna start this song and I'll take us out. And thank you again, Tish. I really enjoyed this. And
sure.
And good luck to everything where you're doing there.
And maybe we'll meet in real person one of these days.
Absolutely. We have to do that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Thank you, Tish.
Okay. Bye.
Okay. Oh, where is it? Here we go. There we go.
I've known you before.